So good morning. I mean, I wanted to say morning again. It's already evening, right? Good evening, everyone. I hope this will be interactive because as much as possible, I want this class to be as interactive as possible. The only thing I will state is that I will appreciate if you are in not a very noisy place or you don't have interruptions so that we can enjoy ourselves. So the number one rule for this class is please make sure you minimize the noise that may come from your end as much as possible so that we all have a good time in this class. Okay, let's get into it quickly. Um, Let me share my screen so that we can take it from there. I hope everybody was able to get the PowerPoint I did share. I shared two materials on the group. One is a PowerPoint presentation, and the other one is a book, chapter 5 of the book, which I've actually been compiling for public sector accounting. I hope you are able to get those two that I shared. Can I get a confirmation, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, so that will be the context of what we're going to be using to address today's class so that we use that as a basis. Now, let me start by introducing myself and what I do and how come I'm lecturing public sector today with you. As it states, my name is Bayode Agbi, FCA. I started out in public sector. I started from Auditor General's office sometimes in 1997, and I resigned voluntarily in 2018 to start an accounting firm called Agbi, Bayode and Co. And how did I get to that point? When I started in public sector, somehow I was not really enjoying it, and then I got to go to become the head of finance of National Film and Video Censors Board. While I was there, I got exposed to a lot of things, and one of the things that happened was I decided to go for masters in UK. And when I got to UK to do my masters, I got exposed to what is called cloud accounting, which is basically performing accounting tasks using cloud softwares. And I got exposed also to doing what we call outsource accounting services to SMEs. And the interest about mind is that once you get exposed to some things, it's very difficult for your mind to come back with that thing, whatever it is that's changed your mind, so to say. And so when I finished my masters, I did two masters, an MBA and an MSc, one in Leeds and one in London campus of University of Wales. I returned to Nigeria in 2014, back to public sector, and I returned to be the head of audit of National Film and Video Censors. I don't know how many people have heard of National Film and Video Censors Board before. Hello, can somebody just say yes or no? Is this supposed to be a typing kind of class or response kind of class? Let me know so that I'm guided. I thought I'll be hearing voices.
Yes, you'll be hearing voices, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Has anybody heard of National Film and Video Censors Board here before? Is the government
No, sir.
agency that's in charge of classification of films. You know, those things say 18, this film is rated 18, this film is rated 16, all those kind of things. That's the government agency that is in charge of it. And then, so because of that, I got exposed to filmmaking, film production, and all that. Now that's another discussion entirely about how, to become a film accountant, so to say. So I resigned as assistant director, finance and account. Some people said I was crazy at that time, but I knew what I wanted. I wanted to have freedom. I wanted to do what I love. I wanted to die with not having the reason to ask myself, if I have done something, what will have been the outcome? I wanted to tick all the boxes before I die. And this box that I ticked, I'm happy I ticked it. And so I resigned and I started this outfit called Pillarcraft. Pillarcraft is an outsource accounting firm that provide outsource accounting to small businesses, medium scale businesses around the country using basically cloud solutions. So I say to people, my firm is the Pillarcraft is basically a tech accounting firm. And then over the years, we've developed to become one of the biggest when it comes to technology and accounting. I don't know how many of you have heard of Zero before, Zero Cloud Accounting Software. Have you heard of Zero before?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
You have heard of Zero. So if you have heard of Zero, I'm actually the biggest partner to Zero in Nigeria. Zero is like QuickBooks. It's like QuickBooks online. Or to me, Zero is the best when it comes to cloud accounting software. I'm the biggest partner in Zero, but we also now developed our own accounting software in my firm called Usawa. Usawa is also similar to Zero, and the reason we did it was that Zero was becoming a bit more expensive for Nigerian businesses to pay. At the moment, it's like $42 for standard and $62 for premium. And a lot of businesses that we were supporting, so to say, had to drop Zero. So they were not using any, some were using pirated softwares. And because we saw the market, what they needed, we actually did invest into building an accounting software. And so we built a Usawa cloud accounting software. At the moment, we're expanding it. We're building CRM software. We're building a POS software. We're building a payroll software. We're building a human resources management software. We're building a crypto accounting management software. I don't know if you guys have, that's another field that is evolving right now. Crypto accounting. Have you heard of it before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please, in this class, as much as possible, I like interactions so that I know that you guys are there, and then it makes it more interesting as we're going. Okay, so that's been my journey, and then I have lectured public sector. I lectured public sector the first 10 years of my qualification. And then when I started to build Pillarcraft and Agbi and Co., there was not a lot of time to be doing it. In fact, if you go and Google have you heard of ICAN online before? If you have ever heard of ICAN online before, it was me. We were at 2013 when I wanted to build a fully ICAN classes online for ICAN students. But that was just before my practice took off, that I didn't have any time to be doing all those kind of things again. And then this year, I decided to myself that, one, the practice is a bit, should I say, on autopilot a bit. There's a lot of things that I don't get involved in again. And then I love to lecture, so why don't I come back to this thing that I've done for a long time? Secondly, I believe I'm one of the best person that will teach public sector because of my years of experience in public sector and the roles I have held in public sector. I don't know if anybody here is in the public sector at all here. Is anybody working with any of the ministries or agency or anything?
No.
Oh, nobody? Okay. Because while I was in public sector, I was member of the people that developed, or should I say the committee that developed some of those things that are changing public sector. For example, the treasury single account, the national chart of accounts, all those things. Luckily, I had bosses that put me in those committees, and I knew I saw all those things, from the front seat. And so usually I say that you shouldn't fail public sector. If I teach you public sector, it's not possible. Now, why do I also like to teach public sector? Public sector is the most realistic, especially if you are not yet in any form of practicing. For example, if you are doing auditing, you may not have been involved in any form of auditing, but you'll be doing auditing, right? If you are doing tax, you may not be involved in any tax. For example, now you are doing financial reporting, you are doing corporate reporting, you are doing all those things. Those things are like things that you may not, except you are working or intending or attached to an auditing firm, for you to have a sense of it. Now, even if you are attached to some auditing firm, you may not even see some of these things up and close. So it's very theoretical to you. However, public sector accounting is a day-to-day thing. In fact, I say to people that is a field that is the most impactful when it comes to being a chartered accountant, because I know that some of you will end up to be maybe the minister for finance one day, or commissioner for finance in some states, or you are going to become an advisor to a state governor, or advisor to the president, or advisor to the minister. This is those things that brings about you being able to be a good resource to those people that you may end up working with in the long run. At least we give you a lot of background concerning how it is, and the decisions you make as a public sector accountant or a public sector advisor has an impact on not just shareholders, on millions of people. And that's why I think the focus on public sector accounting and finance should be more. In fact, in UK, there is a whole what do you call them, institute that is about public sector finance. So that's a bit of introduction of myself. I can see everybody's name. I see Mr. Sunday Aborishade. Welcome. I see Ajoke. I see Favor. I see Grace. I see Chiamaka. What else is there? Yeah, I think those are the names I see at the moment. So let's go into today's class. So what will we be doing today, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. I see it.
Excellent. Yes, sir. What we'll be doing today, I'll be doing a bit of more introduction when it comes to what we're talking about today. We're talking around public debt, public surpluses, and we'll be treating a past exam question, which is actually the last diet. Has anyone looked at the last diet question? Hello, has anybody looked at the last? You are just reading, you are not looked at the last diet question? Please go and get the last diet question. In fact, let me give an advice. I've always maintained and I've always said that, to me, ICAN is one of those exams that is very easy to pass. Very, very easy to pass. And I tell people that if I can qualify, I don't think there's anyone that cannot qualify. One of the strategy for passing ICAN is that you get the last 10 diets past questions. The last 10 diet past questions, not towards the end, towards your exam. As you are starting out now, by the time you move to the professional level, get the last 10 diet question of any of the exams you intend to take. Right now you guys have this prerogative of choosing if you are doing 2 exams, or you are doing 3, you are doing 4. During my time, it was 4 papers or 5 papers at the level, and if you fail one, you fail all. But if you decide I'm taking 3 papers this diet, go and get the last 10 diets of that paper. You know why? Because ICAN is as lazy. People that are setting exams, they are so as lazy as I am, in one instance. 2, they like to test those areas that people may have failed in the past. So what they do, what I've seen, is that out of those 5 questions, 3 questions are usually a rebound question. And sometimes it's so bad that there are so much rebound that is verbatim. And if you have ever practiced it, it's going to be something that, you just take it as easy pill and just take it off and swallow it. So as you are starting off, first I will advise, go and, no matter how your schedule is, get the last 10 diet. That is like 5 years or so, yeah? From May 2025, I think, to May, which year is that? Just get them 2 for the last 5 years and study them, the questions that came out. You can even put them in ChatGPT and tell it to show you the trend. That trend may not work, but like I said to you, usually those questions repeat. Now, I must also say this to you, because I said it in the physical class yesterday. It's also important you understand that how questions are approached is based on where you are in ICAN. For foundation level, there are things we expect you to do. For skills level, there are things we expect, there are ways we expect you to answer questions. And at professional level, there's also a way we expect you to answer questions. Now, at the skills level, let me start from foundation. Foundation, I can put a lot of emphasis on you understanding the concept, defining the concept without any example being given, usually. Now, at the skills level, if there are examples, it makes your answer richer and shows that you have the skills of what they are looking out for. At the professional level, we want you to give definition, understand the concept, give example or 2 scenarios, and then recommend which is the best. That time you are acting as an accountant. That's why it's called a professional level. So it's important you also have that in mind when you're answering questions at this level when it comes to public sector accounting or anything you are doing at this skills level. Because it's also one of the reasons why I think people fail at the skills level, and they will start trying to understand why they did all they can. Some people just carry the foundation knowledge into skills. And it's most applicable, especially for those that had exemption. I don't know how many of you have exemptions from foundation here. How many people passed from foundation to this place? Mr. Sunday, okay, you have exemption. Alima has exemption. Grace has exemption. Who else again? Ajoke has exemption, Abi. Okay, that means everybody. Chiamaka too has. Everybody here had exemption from foundation. So, yes, if you have exemption from foundation, you have to pay very important notes to just what I've said. Because why? Usually, you may not be put in that level of demand when you were finishing school, when you were in your university. I don't know how it was, because different schools have different ways of marking. But I'm telling you the way ICAN marks from foundation to skills to professional. And that's why people will just be cramming at the skills level. They'll be cramming definitions and they'll say, I did define it for them. I did this, and how did I fail? Most times you need to extrapolate that definition or back that definition up with the fact that you can actually apply it to a real life situation, because we are training you to become a real life accountant. I hope you understand that, sir. Everybody, it's only Mr. Sunday that is a man here. Every other person is a lady, Abi. I think so. I think the poll is against you, Mr. Sunday. You are a minority here now. You're a minority. The female gender are winning this particular class. Okay, and that's also the reason why. Another thing I must also say from my experience in lecturing ICAN is that, do you know why the school start holder qualify faster than the degree holders? They come from the position of I don't know. Usually, unfortunately, most of the degree, HND, BSc holders, you may have heard of some of these terms. You may have attended the class where these things are taught. You may have also been very brilliant in class. But you need to adopt a new strategy. Remove your toga of this, because what you have done in school was basically theoretical. Now you need to understand how to apply these things into practical, real life environment, and that's very important. If you are still answering questions here like you were in your university, like not applying real life situations to it where it is possible. If they gave you a question of definition and you have something to back it up, you will get, especially when they say the answer is 3 marks or something like that. Most times 2 marks is reserved for giving that, showing that it's actually you can apply it to a real life situation rather than just defining it. So have those understanding in mind. So what we will be doing today, let's go back to our presentation. So we're looking at public debt, public surplus, we're looking at the past question and reviewing some of the exam pointer. Like I said, I've shared this PowerPoint. I've also shared the part of the book. The PowerPoint is basically to give you an idea of how these things are done. And I think if you even just read the PowerPoint and apply it to real life situations, you will still pass. So that's what I know. The textbook, the chapter 5 that you can see is very voluminous, like 60 pages, is actually something I'm compiling to produce a whole public sector accounting textbooks. Now, that gives you more insight into public sector, but this PowerPoint that I've given you should be enough with your lesson, with your material from your both ICAN and from Top Notch. If you combine them with the past questions, I think, in my own opinion, you are good to go. But if you want to win the prize, please read the textbook part. Now, when I'm lecturing public sector, so that students have a good understanding and like a checklist of what it is that we are doing and where we are. I used to follow this roadmap from beginning to the end, because to me, public sector is like building blocks, especially because a lot of people, it is new to them. In fact, I know some people that they never did public sector even when they were doing their degree or they were doing their HND. So the first time they are being exposed to it is in ICAN classes. I've heard of some schools that don't do it at all. So I used to layer it in a way that you have the basics and then we start to layer stone by stone to it. But it also helps so that when you are preparing for ICAN, you will know, let me say, the areas you have covered and what is outstanding to be covered in any case. Now, the way it is framework is that there's legal framework where we are talking of things like the financial authorities, Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria, and all those things. And then when we talk of the accountability framework, e.g., that's when we start defining Accountant General, Auditor General, National Assembly, and all that. Then we also talk about the ethics, because once we identify those principal actors in public sector, it is also important that we talk about how they should behave, the ethics that are allowed in public sector, and then issues around corruption and how corruption has evolved in Nigerian public sector, or generally in public sector, because we are seeing it all over the world that no place is sane. Everywhere there's corruption. The only thing that some are so bad, while some they have framework to manage it. And then the second part of public sector accounting and finance is actually public sector finance. Now, I mean, what the name is public sector finance and account. So public sector finance. That is where you talk of the issues around financing. Why do we need to finance in public sector? What are things like the common good and what do we need to finance them? Issues like we discussed things like the free riders, people that will not want to pay anything but want to enjoy the facilities of public sector. And then we talked about the public sector revenue and expenditure, things like taxes. How do we generate money for public sector? What do we spend those money on? We talked of things like recurrent expenses, capital expenses, and all those development capital, all those kind of expenses that we make. And then we talk of public sector finance areas concerning debt and surplus. Then we also talk of revenue allocation and all those kind of physical, all those things. And then the third aspect is the public sector accounting and auditing. That's when we do things like budgeting and budget management. We do the issues about computations, issues around the bookkeeping and accounting in public sector. That's why you talk of vote book, you talk of cash management and all those things, vouchering, how to vouch, all those transactional issues when it comes to public sector accounting. And then you will now talk of how to report in public sector under IPSAS. And that's where you understand IPSAS, you break down IPSAS into the various areas, and how you should report in them in public sector. And then we'll talk about auditing in public sector, the role of Auditor General, the Public Account Committee, and how you perform auditing in public sector, which is all sometimes not so different for private sector. The working papers are the same, and the audit procedures are the same. How you sample, how you vouch, they're all the same thing. The only thing is the laws and the process and how it is reported, because the stakeholders are also different. While the stakeholder in company are the shareholders and all that, the stakeholder is the public, and it's National Assembly that representing the public in the case of public sector. And then we now have things around public sector management issues like procurement, economic crime, and then the emerging issues in public sector. Now, this is the roadmap that if you follow it clearly from beginning to the end, you will have covered public sector in the diet. This can also serve as a checklist for you to know where you are, what has been covered, and what is outstanding, so to say. Now, what will I be covering? I'll be covering the ones I have highlighted: ethics in public sector finance, debt and surplus, and I'll be discussing the emerging issues in public sector, things like digitalization, transparency, some of the reforms that are happening now. We'll be discussing them as we go, especially in each of the topics that I'm doing, but I will still give a general discussion concerning it as we go. Any question before I move on? Great. So let's do a bit of refresher. You are done, I believe you have done public sector finance, issues around how government generates money. I think that's what you did last week from what my Oga told me. You did things like taxes and all those things last week, right? Can somebody confirm, please?
What we did last week was more of investment appraisals.
Oh, investment appraisals.
Yes.
Okay.
So we did.
Okay, calculation.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me give you a refresher. I'm sure my Oga will still take this part. In public sector, just like let me first put it in context. Most time I tell people, don't look at public sector too much as if it's a white elephant or something that is obscure. Extrapolate it from individual to company and then to, should I say, public sector. As an individual, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, or routinely, you check, what is my finance like? Abi, what your finance is like is how much can you make? What are those basic needs that you need? And how can you meet it? So also in public sector, we have the issues of how do we mobilize revenue? What are those expenses that we must incur? How do we manage them? How do we achieve them in public? And that's also what it is in public sector. Now, usually in public sector is about providing those infrastructures and public goods. I'm sure you understand what public goods is all about. Public goods are those things that you cannot exclude people from. For example, nobody can say because you are not paying tax, you should not drive on the road, abi, or you should not walk on the road. The only thing they can hold you for, if you are driving and they say you need a road permit for you to drive on the road, but you can actually use the road, and there are some that it's impossible for anybody to say you should not use, no matter how they try. Some of those infrastructure belong to, those are what we call the public good. Now, we also use public finance in terms of distributing wealth and promote social equality, and that's where taxation comes into play. So, for example, we will say like this term, let's take from the rich to finance the poor, all right? That is how we distribute wealth. We tax whatever um, the rich is using more and use it to finance what the poor needs, so to say. We also use it as a way of stabilizing the economy by fiscal policy. How do we stabilize the economy? By spending money in such a way that if economy is down, we can actually stimulate it by spending money. It also allows to mobilize savings and also investment for growth. We'll be talking about all those things as we go. But let's start from here. How many of you have looked at the budget for 2025? Has any of you looked at the budget for 2025? Or you are just a nominal Nigeria?
I haven't.
Eh?
I have not, sir.
You have not. I think so. All of you should be looking at so that when you are commenting now, because now you are going to become a authority when it comes to these things. So that when people are commenting, when you are listening to channels, you are listening to which was that on TVC Abi, and they bring a commentator and they are saying all those big grammar. It's important that you can also listen to it and also be able to analyze if the person is actually shooting rubbish or they are saying what should make sense. Now, for the year 2025, we projected an expenditure of what we are going to spend of 49.7 trillion naira. However, the expected revenue that we expect to get from all our sources, it is 36 trillion. What does that cost? That means there's what we call budget deficit, when our expenses is above what we are expecting to make. Let's extrapolate that to individual also. If you in a month, I don't know how many people are employed here and how many people are still searching for a job.
I'm employed, sir.
Okay. Are you working in industry
I
or
work in the bank.
you work in a bank?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Miss Ajoke, how about you? Are you a student ICAN member or hello? We're employed. Where? Industry or firm? I'm talking to Ajoke. Ajoke, don't switch off. Okay. And then the next person is Lati. Am I right? I hope I got the name right.
Yes, I'm employed.
Where,
Yes.
please?
Latifa. Okay, university.
University.
Yes, Federal University.
In the bursary department, Abi?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Alima, employed or student ICAN member? Eh?
Employed.
Federal University too. Oh, okay. And then Grace, student or
Sir,
are you employed or a
employed
student ICAN member? Employed where?
in the hospital.
In an hospital. Oh, nice, nice. And then Favor, are you employed or student ICAN member?
I'm employed.
Where?
IT consulting industry.
IT consulting. Are you into tech or you are an accountant in an IT firm?
I'm an accountant there.
Okay, so you should be exposed to a lot of technology right now. Do you code at all? Have you started to code or
No, I don't.
take it as a skills or I code?
Okay.
Take it as a skills. In fact, see, accounting is evolving. If you really want to make it in accounting right now, it's not those days where the traditional accountant are. No, what you need, a lot has changed. I code, and that's why I could be able to. I'm not a super coder. Do you understand? But I know the basics that I can sit a developer down and tell the developer what to do, and the developer will understand I know what I'm saying. And that skills have really helped me when it comes to doing a lot of things. And that has helped me develop a lot of technology for business. In fact, at the moment, I'm developing even technology for, we'll talk about that later. And then Bukola Musa, are you student, ICAN member or employed? Is Bukola Musa there? Chiamaka,
Yes, sir.
are you student member or employed?
I'm employed.
Oh, where are you employed, please?
It's in the media.
In the media, in a
The
media
private
house?
organization. Yes.
Okay. Oh, great. So we have diverse accountants here. And this is interesting thing about accounting. Oh. You know, some of you can become specialized in different areas as it is, right? For example, I hope you know we are doing general accounting now. What we are now in ICAN, when you qualify as an accountant, you become a general practice accountant. But there's more money become a specialized accountant rather than become, there's specialty in accounting. Are you guys aware? For example, accounting for bank is not the same for
Yes, sir.
accounting for a government agency. It's not also the same thing accounting for
Yes, sir.
media. It's not the same thing accounting for IT, for example, right? For example, in IT, if you're accounting for them, there are things that happens that will not happen in a bank, so to say. One of the specialty that I have is that I'm a film accountant. I don't know if you guys heard of film accounting before. Has anyone heard of film accounting before?
This is the first time, sir.
Yes, I'm one of the
No,
very.
sir.
I don't think I have any. I've never met a competitor, so to say. So it's always very good for me when I go to places and I bid to become an accountant for a production. So you see films like, have you seen How to Catch a Monkey, for example?
Yes.
Behind the scene, there are accountants that are working with that set. Me, I've worked more with Kunle Afolayan. Have you heard of Kunle Afolayan before?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
you've seen Anikulapo, you've seen all those films, Abi. Usually,
Yes, sir.
I'm on set in those places, and I'm the accountant on those sets. And in fact, actually, I did feature in a film, but after featuring that film, I found out that it's not my calling. I can't be a film. I can't be a, what do you call them?
Actor.
An actor. It's not my calling. Although they gave me a good review that I did well, but I found out that no, I don't have the should I say the patience for the job. Have you seen in Naija Christmas before? Anybody have seen Naija Christmas? It's a Kunle Afolayan film too. It's a Netflix original. Have you guys not seen it before? Nobody has seen it. You've seen Naija Christmas? Okay. If you ever watch it or go back to watch it, we have seen it before. I acted in that film. I was a agency boss in the film that sponsored the carnival in Mushin and all that. So just to tell you guys that there is a lot happening when it comes to accounting and the specialization. For example, I do retail, agriculture. Even in agriculture, there is poultry. Poultry is not the same thing as crop accounting. A lot of people do auditing, all those things, but I will come to that again. I will only be opening your mind up to tell you that there's a lot of prospect. If you have the should I say the confidence to start a practice. If you don't want to start a practice, be practicing part-time. Even if it's for your church, even if it's for your friends, be giving them accounting services because accounting is a practice. The more you do it, the more you learn. Okay, so let's go on. Now, the reason I said I will divert it was that I said it's important that we not just be doing the classes, reading our ICAN textbook, but especially when it comes to public sector. Like I said, you must be able to bring these ideas to life, so to say. Bring them to life and show how they relate to actual event happening. So one of those things that you need to follow up is how is the budget performing? What are those things? Now, like in the real life as an individual, if you are a salary earner, like everybody here is employed, it means that on a monthly basis, you already know what you are going to earn, right? And then you have idea of what your expenses will be. For example, you need to buy fuel, you need to travel, you need to buy food, you need to do other, should I say, expenses like maybe visiting families. If you are a Christian, you want to pay tithe, you want to do offering, and all those things happens. Now, let's assume you don't have enough revenue to cover those expenses. What do you do? First is that you have identified that there's a deficit, Abi. It means that you may need to borrow. So, what is public debt? Public debt is basically where we are going to now. And what is public debt? Is a total outstanding obligations owed by government to internal and external creditor. Now, by broad definition, Abi, it means that we can actually just identify debt to be domestic debt or external debt. Just like in individuals, Abi, debt that you incur within your domain, let me say your family, your brother, your sister, your wife, can be considered domestic debt. Am I right? But if you incur debt from the bank, from a borrowing agency, or you go to these loan apps, those loan apps that will now be sending the person's name to family and friends to say that if you know this person has borrowed money, that is external. Now, why am I differentiating this? It's also important to understand that that's a broad category for public debt. One is that debt can be categorized basically into two parts: domestic debt and external debt. The domestic are the ones that are borrowed from within the Nigerian sources. We are going to be talking more about those Nigerian sources, for example, treasury bills, bonds, or any of those ones that are sold through the debt management office. And then the external debt are those ones that are borrowed from foreign entities. For example, we have Euro bond in Nigeria, and all that, and the one we can borrow from World Bank. Now, let's now look at how debt can be classified. You can see I'd mentioned the broad definition of debt. There's one between categories of debt and how debt is classified. I think there was a diet where that distinction was kind of implied that students should make between categories and classification. Now, debt can be classified into various means. Either is based on the internal and external, like we just explained, if it was borrowed within Nigeria or borrowed by foreign creditors, or it can be classified based on term. The ones that are maturing within 1 year, the ones that are maturing between 1 to 5 years, and the ones that are maturing over 5 years. In the company, what do we call that? What do we call the creditors that are within 1 year? Creditor within 1 year. Chiamaka, what do you call them? Sorry? What do you call it, Mr. Sunday?
I just said time loan.
No, it's not time loan. We don't call them time loan. There's a word for it when you are doing your financial reporting. For credit between one. Sorry? No. You can. It can be short term. It's a type of loan. Short term is a type of loan, but it is usually categorized under loans within 1 year, Abi, and is under your current liabilities. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the same thing, we now have those loans that are extending beyond 1 year. We can call them non-current liabilities, Abi. And they can be different things. They can be loan from your bank, they can be loan from a shareholder, they can be loan from a director, they can be loan even from an investor, right? All of them will be classified under it as non-current liability. The one that will mature in 30 days, and those ones can be overdraft, Abi, from the bank. They can be short-term loan, what we call working capital loan from a bank. There's a lot of it, So the same way when it comes to public sector, we have those loans that we can say they are the maturity between 1 year. Actually, that one is basically the treasury bills. Anyone that's within 1 year is usually treasury bills, and then the ones that are above 1 year is usually bond. Bond can be up to 20 years, and then we have the bonds that are above 30, 40 years, like for example, the Euro bond that we issued in 2019. Now, ladies and gentlemen, do you know how much we are owing as a country?
We have an idea.
What's the idea, sir? Give me an idea.
I think it's around in dollars, it's around $7-something billion.
Okay. Now, this is as at 31st of March. I think as at now, we've actually gone very far in terms of the money we are owing. So we are owing about $97 million as at March, right? But that is for both federal government and all the states. It means we are owing about 149 trillion naira as the country. Now, how is that broken down? You can see, I'm also trying to see how the debt stock of federal government is. You can see we have the FGM bond, the Naira bond, the US bond, treasury bills, Sukuk, FG savings. We are going to define in all those things as we go on. The green bond, the promissory notes, local currency, and all those foreign denominated promissory notes. We are going to be explaining the differences for some of these things as we go on. Now, this is now also debt servicing. We'll be talking. I just wanted you guys to have a graphic look of it. The amount we are going to service in Nigeria. For example, you can see the amount we used to service treasury bills in January, February, and March. We have used, in the first quarter, we have used $960, almost a billion, almost a trillion, sorry, to service our debt in terms of treasury bills. And so also we've had to service other debts also, coming to about 2.6 trillion that were used to service debt. Put that in mind. We are going to coming back to this. This is just an illustration so that, and how you can get this figure is that if you go to debt management office, I don't know how many of you do visit that debt management office website, you'll be able to see to date how much we are actually owing in government. Now, why do we borrow money? Why do we borrow money? Now, we borrow money for a lot of reasons, but the major 4 reasons why we borrow money, it is 1, to finance budget deficit. Like you saw, I showed you that time, right? That if the budget is 49, right? We did it that, we looked at it that time. This is the budget. The budget is 49 trillion, but the amount we're expecting our revenue is 36 trillion. We have a 13 trillion naira differential that we need to raise. So number 1 reason why we borrow money is to finance the budget deficit. When revenue is lower than what was planned, what we do is we borrow money to finance it. Now, there are various ways where federal government will borrow money. I don't know if any of you bought the treasury bills that was issued this year to finance the 2025 budget. Did anybody buy the treasury bills? Or the bonds, sorry, treasury bills and bonds, 2 were issued. Why?
I have budget deficit in my finance.
So it's impossible to even invest.
For now, yes.
No, I don't agree with that philosophy, Mr. Sunday. I don't know if you have read the book Richest Man in Babylon. Anybody read that book before?
So that's what I'm working on, sir. Trying
Yes, sir.
Trying to become the richest man in Babylon, Abi.
Yes.
How you do that is that you must always pay yourself, no matter how bad the situation
Yes,
is.
sir.
You must always pay yourself. No matter how low the amount is. Do you understand what I mean? Because let me tell you something. If you look at your, should I say, balance sheet at the end of every year, and your balance sheet is always reading zero, there's a way it depresses you. That with all this work I've worked, I don't have anything to show for it. Do you understand? So if you have, even if it's at the end of the year, I don't know what you are earning. If it's 5% of whatever you're earning, if it's 2% of it, find a place you put it. What I do is that I'll share my own this thing with you guys. I have a mutual fund that I don't touch. Do you understand? It's like my own every month, no matter how bad, no matter all the pressure. No, I understand, Mr. Sunday, as a man, the pressure is on us. They are bringing the bills left, right, and center. Family and friends, everybody will say, you must help me, you must help me. Before I start helping everybody, I help myself. I remove small money and keep. And most times when I look at that statement, it's not big money, but it makes me happy to know that I have some money there. It's not too much, but I have money there. I know the interesting statistics I read the other day that is very shocking. That less than 10% of Nigerians have above 1.5 million in their savings. Did you read that statistics? Did anybody see that statistics that time that was shared by Bureau for Statistics of people not having any money in their account? While people are earning money, all the money is spent on a daily basis. So as much as possible, keep some money aside, because also the money you keep aside is your fuel to pursue your dream. The day you decide that I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore, is that money that will guide you, that will be able to say, let's pursue it. Sometimes it's fatal, because when I resigned from public sector, I didn't have money. And a lot of my friends, in fact, a lot of people set up, what do you call it? Prayer warrior on me, and said that they must have casted something on me to say I'm resigning from public sector. Somebody said they are working in the university that time. There's a bursary, Abi. I think is who said that time? I think it's Latifa, Abi,
Yeah.
and Nalima, Abi.
Yes, sir.
So imagine if your bosser,
Yes, sir.
imagine your bosser says he's resigning.
Okay. What is that? I know that means it's happening.
It may not be. So
Exactly.
I was an assistant director of finance. Do you
You are
understand?
capable. Or it's possible
I've
you've
taken
gotten to
enough. No,
that stage that you had to exactly
no,
start up yourself.
no. It's just that
Depends on that thing.
sometimes you see your mind is a very, very interesting thing. There's a way your mind will work that you'll be where you are and you'll not be happy no matter how much you are seeing.
That's true. That's when you don't have to what you're doing, what you're doing.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I was just there. I don't like you guys. It's public sector now. You see, and you're head of finance. You always see money now. But I just come to work and I'm like, this is not what I want to do. Actually, like I said, I went when I was coming back from UK. I already made up my mind to start up the practice. When I came back, there was a lot of pressure. Don't do it. The day, because I took a study leave, right? So when I came back, somebody was trying to occupy the position. And they said the man has gone to jazz you so that you don't even think of coming back. Now you're talking bullshit. But I tell you guys that I have been fulfilled. Since I resigned 2018, the struggle years were like 5-6 years. That's normal for any business, Those were the struggle years. Now, I know the struggle. I no go like. I'm not the richest man, no, but struggle don't no day again.
So that's all people for employment now.
Eh?
They are available for employment.
We'll talk
They are
about
available for employment in your bank.
we'll talk about that later. Yeah, we'll talk about it in this class. People that can, because again, employment. Are you employable? To me, are you getting the
Okay.
question? Because
Yes,
right now, and I think I said this in the class yesterday. The major problem the economy has, not just accounting firms, economy, is that there are no skilled accountants. There are no skilled accountants in Nigeria. Very few. Let me not say there are not. Very few skilled accountants.
Sure.
Very, very few. There's a lot of
So
chartered
you're
accountants.
absolutely right, sir.
There are 40,000, 50,000 chartered accountants. Add Anan to them. Add people that are carrying different qualifications around. How many can actually do the job of an accountant? There are very few. I can tell you. Yes, no, I'll tell you for a fact that almost every time I engage I get accountant for clients, the accountant will sack the client. Will sack the client will sack the accountant sometimes in less than 1 month. Because most of the business owners are even more technically grounded in accounting than accountants. Why?
Very true.
Because they have worked with several accountants and they have learned. So it's easy for them to quickly know that this person, forget all the LinkedIn profile, forget all the CV that he has written, this guy can't do anything, doesn't even know how to prepare books. Now, that is even the first level. The second level is now working in a cloud environment, working with cloud softwares. A lot of accountants, even till this point, don't use technology at all in their day-to-day. Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
That is now the challenge. The question is, how are you willing to sacrifice to get the skills? When I was in UK, that was when I first found. When I got to UK, I found out that for you to become an intern, articleship, that's what we call it in UK, you will pay to do articleship. Like you work in an accounting firm. Do you understand? Why? Because they're actually giving you skills that are going to make whatever you have learned in school, become usable. So that's the challenge. So we'll talk about it later. I've really, like I used to lecture 10 years ago. I'm coming back to lecturing now since 2013. And that's why I said if you go and Google ICAN online, I used to do those free lectures online. So even some of my voice, you still hear it on ICAN. If you Google it, it's on YouTube. I used to do all those things 10 years ago. But when I started practice, it became difficult. And one of the most difficult things is staffing, having people that will help you to grow the business. Do you understand? But we're going to talk about that later. But really, I will encourage any one of you, as you are getting qualified, even as you are doing it now, find a small accounting firm, join them, even if it's on part-time basis, even if it's on freelance, join them. Because most times people tell me, oh, they can't pay me. They pay 100,000, they pay 50,000. I can't earn that kind of money. No, forget the money. Earn the skills. Get the skills so that whenever you are talking, you are an account. The worst thing that also happens is that once you qualify, you are burdened because you're already a chartered accountant. People will demand you to do the work of a chartered accountant. You should work without supervision, so to say. But unfortunately for you, you don't even have the skills. Problem will now start. And do you know how many accountants are jobless? Do you know chartered accountants, some of them are earning 40,000, not because they want to earn it, because they can't do better. But I say to people, if you have your skills, you should not. It is an unforgivable sin as a chartered accountant to be broke. You know why? You have in your circle, in your WhatsApp group alone, You have minimum of 10 people that need your service. Minimum of 10 people that need your service. The problem is that can you serve them? If you can serve them and you have the value, you can never be broke. Let's go on. So the first reason I said is that we are talking of budget deficit financing. When the budget, we have budgeted what we want to spend, but the amount that we have concerning revenue is lower than what we want to spend. We need to borrow. We may borrow from internal, which is if you borrow from your family, you are borrowing from your friend, maybe you borrow from your wife, or you borrow from brothers, sisters, or you go outside to the bank and borrow. The second reason why government borrows is also to finance capital projects. For example, we borrow to finance the Abuja-Kaduna Lagos-Ibadan railway project. I don't know if you are aware. Those are part of the reason we borrow. Another reason is balance of payment. Now, do you understand? Can anybody explain what balance of payment is to me? That was your accounts class those days, Abi? Yes. Okay, please explain. Adoke, please explain balance of payment to us.
Balance of payment is either favorable or unfavorable.
How does it come about?
Okay, now for this support, that means there's a disequilibrium.
I know. There's an equilibrium in what?
The total receipt is more than the total payment.
The total receipt is more than the total payment. So
Yes.
what I wanted you to talk about is how we derive that payment. Now, normally for a country, there is what we call imports and there is exports, right? The Central Bank of Nigeria is in charge of paying for all the imports that we are doing, and then is also financing all the exports that we are making. And usually, the ideal situation is that the amount we are exporting should match the amount that we are importing. That is, the amount that we have earned from importing should match the amount that we have earned from exporting. If that is so, the balance of payment is what we call balanced. However, you know that's an utopian. It's either one is greater than the other. Now, if you are exporting more than you are importing, it means that you have a favorable balance of payments because you are earning more from exports than you are paying for imports. However, if you are importing more than you are exporting, you are going to have a negative balance of payment. It means that what you are importing, the amount you are spending to import is greater than the amount you are earning from exports. And that's the case of Nigeria, am I right? We are spending more money importing than what we are exporting. Because of that, government needs to balance out, right? And most of the ways they use to balance that is to borrow money to also do that. Another reason why we borrow is stabilization and emergency. For example, I just read this morning that the federal government has approved, was it 40 something billion to build the bridge in Mokwa, Niger State, that there was a flood the other day. Are you guys remember that Mokwa flood?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So that's an emergency, right? Emergency such as that, government may not have planned for, just like in life. You may just wake up and some bulb will just go out in your house. I mean, you may not plan, it's not what you plan for that day, that month. You may need to change it, right? So things can happen. And those uncertainties, when they happen, government may need to borrow money either for short-term money so that when other revenue comes, they can cover it up. The second reason is stabilization. Now, stabilization in effect in sense that there can be crisis, health crisis, food crisis that can happen. Sorry, that can happen, and government will need to fund it to be able to do the stabilization. Those are the four major reasons why we borrow. There are other reasons, but those ones are the major reasons why we borrow. Any question? Any question?
No, sir.
No question. Okay. Now, so what are the sources? What are the sources of debt that we have in Nigeria? Now, like I said, sources of debt can also be classified based on if it's internal sources or external. For internal, there's what we call treasury bills. We can also internally borrow federal government bonds. Now, what is a treasury bill? Now, a treasury bill is usually a short-term security that we use that is normally issued by CBN. It's usually a 90 days, 180 days, it's between 1 year, maximum 1 year. That's what a treasury bill is. The difference between a treasury bill and bond is that bond is also like a treasury bills. However, it extends beyond 1 year. It can go as far as 5 to 10 to 20 years. That's what a bond is. Now, what is a savings certificate? Now, a savings certificate is, for example, because some people cannot afford the way treasury bills are being marketed. Treasury bills are sometimes can be marketed and say minimum is 100,000. Do you understand? Savings certificate is like treasury bills, but for lower income earner. So some of those savings certificates can be 5,000, 10,000. The idea is that if rather than you saving your money in the bank where you don't earn as much interest, you can actually buy a savings certificate and then use it to keep your money. And usually some of them comes also in bonds of say 10 years, 1 year, 5 years. They are usually not too far off too. And then the one that is very new in Nigeria, which is the Sukuk bond. Now, the Sukuk bonds are basically tailored towards Islamic faith, because in Islam, I'm sure they are. I think obviously, I believe. Let me not say obviously. I believe Alima is a Muslim. I want to believe so, and Latifa is also a Muslim. Am I right or wrong? Because these days the name can be Muslim name, but the person will say I'm not a Muslim. Okay, now in Islamic faith, one of the harams is giving somebody money and earning interest on it, right? So what has happened over the time is that a lot of our Muslim brothers and sisters were not investing into treasury bills or bonds because of the coupon rate on it, to say that you are giving money and going to be earning interest on it. Rather, they would rather give money for projects and they'll be co-owners of it. And that's why they introduced the Sukuk bond. So the Sukuk bond is almost like the treasury, it's like the federal government bonds, but it's tailored to the Islamic way of teaching. And then we have the ways and means. Now, have you ever heard of ways and means before? Has anybody heard of it? I think Mr. Sunday must have heard of ways and means before. Mr. Sunday, what is ways and means? Explain to us ways and means.
In layman's terms, saving and printing money for the federal government to spend.
That is the best definition for that any layman will understand it. And this matter was not a matter in Nigeria until Emefiele.
Sorry, please, can you come again with that definition?
Can you define it again, Mr. Sunday?
The layman definition, federal is CBN printing money. They print money for the federal government to spend. Okay. So it's not a revenue generated fund. They didn't generate the money, so they just print and then pass it into the economy.
So
please call the name again.
Ways and means. Ways and means.
Okay, ways and means.
Ways
Okay,
and
thank you very
means.
much, sir.
Now, that is the one that is here, down there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is it? Why is it? Now, like Mr. Sanders has given us a very beautiful definition of it, that, when we were starting, we said, when you don't have money, you have revenue. Your revenue is not up to the expenses that you want to do. What do? You borrow money, Abi, for an individual, Abi. If you are a company, you start raising finance, right? You approach investors and say to them, please borrow us money. When we start to make money, we'll repay you the money. But there is a edge that federal government has, which even the state government does not have. It's only the federal government that has it. Federal government has the power to print money. I don't know how many of you have seen that film of Idi Amin. Idi Amin, is it that Idi Amin film? Did you see those films when you were younger?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you remember in that film, there was a part where Idi Amin went to the CBN and said to the CBN governor that they didn't have money. And the man said that the money was becoming worthless like sheet paper. Remember? Because he told him to print more money. The same thing happened. Now, so what happens in federal government is that because they are allowed to print money to meet obligations, one of the ways they finance debt rather than borrowing money is just to print money. So, for example, they are owing contractors, and all the money they are owing contractors is 1 trillion. Rather than loaning that money from other people or other companies, just print 1 trillion and give to the contractors. Now, what is the effect of this? Number one effect is inflation. It makes sure, because inflation is basically when too much of money is pursuing few services or few goods. That is what inflation is all about. So because federal government can print and it prints, money in circulation becomes more, whereas the product or service has not actually increased. There is no value for them. And that's what we saw under Emefiele. They just kept printing money. And at the point they had printed 22 trillion under Emefiele, which was one of the reasons why, even when they were trying to target inflation was just rising almost like very fast. Do you understand? Geometrically, it was so bad. So now there's a lot of theoretical things. There's a lot of things that happened during that time. For example, the issue was that Emefiele was supposed to go to the National Assembly to seek approval to print, but he did not go. He was just printing as should I say, as the cabal were asking for money, was just printing money and giving to them. And then later, towards the end, before Buhari went, they actually moved the motion, to securitize that money. It's part of the debt that was handed over to this administration as part of what was done. So, with a lot of respect to Emefiele, he did us a lot of bad. I think he was not professional enough to stand his ground, to say this thing is wrong, right? We shouldn't do it. I don't know why he succumbed to the pressure, but that's another thing entirely. And that's also I've been my argument sometimes, Mr. Sunday. I do not agree that a banker should be a CBN governor, because we've gotten this thing wrong. CBN is economic policy. The fact that you were a banker doesn't make you a good economist. Secondly, the fact that you're a banker, it means that the way you pursue your balance sheet is different from person that pursues balance sheet by public good. Most bankers, what they see is how much are we making. It's not the impact that it makes in the world. The same thing when people say, oh, the fact that somebody has been in private sector, he will be a very good administrator. It's not always the case. It's two different skill sets. Being an administrator in public sector or being an administrator in private sector, you may be successful in doing business, doesn't mean that you'll be successful as an administrator. But those are arguments most times that I used to banter with my friends. Yes, sir.
But sir, if you look at the number of people who have governed CBN over time,
Yes, sir.
the percentage of bankers is more. And every other person have done well except Emefiele. For example, Sanusi Lamido, he was a banker.
Okay.
Which other person? The current CBN governor, also a banker, and he's doing wonderfully well, trying to stabilize the economy.
I won't say the current. I won't agree that current CBN governor is a banker. Or when last was he in a bank?
No, well, he private sector. The private sector where he works, majorly in the banking sector.
Yes, before he became commissioner of finance.
Yes, sir.
And after he has become a commissioner of finance, he has stayed a lot in public sector, advising Lagos State, federal government in issues of public policy, finance, fiscal policy, and all that over the last 10, 15 years. If you notice, that is what I call cognate experience. Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Like I said, this debate, if we can go on it, I can give you statistics. I don't like to talk of Sanusi Lamido is somebody I personally love, but he didn't do very well as a CBN governor. Personally, I love his personality. Do you understand? He's somebody that I really want to meet in my life. There's nothing he writes. If you go to my Facebook or my writing before, I idealize that man. I love when he speaks, but he's not a fit candidate as a CBN governor. One of the things that I feel you should not have made CBN governor is his utterances. Do you understand? An activist should not be a CBN governor. Let me give you a reason why I say so. Let me also come back to people in public sector. That's an area that I have worked with, so I have a bit of understanding of it. Let's assume, Madam Alima, you are in bursary, right? You are in the accounting part, am I right? Madam Alima, are you there? Okay, and Madam Latitu, you're also in bursary too now, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay,
sir.
Now you have internal audit in your school, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's assume you're head of internal audit. Sees your bossa on the car park with all the staffs there and says that, Madam, you are a thief, you are stealing. Is that an opinion or a fact?
An opinion, sir.
Why is it an opinion? It's an auditor. It's the auditor of the school. I said the head of auditor. I didn't say I said if the head of audit of your school sees the bossa, the bossa is the head of finance and the head of audit is the head of audit, Abi. He sees the he sees the bossa in the car park and says to the bossa, Madam, you are a thief, you are stealing, you are misappropriating funds. Will you take that as an opinion and wish it away?
Let me borrow terms from you. Are not proving otherwise. You are
I know, however.
Exactly.
No, however, that matter will not die a natural death in that your school. It will go round to everybody and they will excellent. So that's why I said to people that are in sensitive position, be careful what you say. Now, part of the people that affect our rating, do you understand? Because we have rating, credit rating, is the CBN governor. He has whatever he says, it affects the market. Do you understand? So if you have somebody that is not careful with what he says, and he says some things, even though they may be fact, I'm not saying they are not fact, but it should be more, it should apply filter to it. That is where I have issues with Emir, because Emir doesn't have a filter. So you understand Sunday where I said that I love him. So apart from him, let's go back to the people. When Soludo was CBN governor, you did wonderful. Go and look at the statistics, right? The thing is that there's now this argument that CBN is a banker or a banker, therefore it must be a banker and all that. And I say to people that let's go back and see how have we fared. In fact, since Sanusi, it has become the tool to fight your enemy. That if I become CBN governor today, and I've been from the stock of say Access Bank, any bank that we used to compete with that time, I won't give them mercy now. And you can see what happened during Sanusi. Do you understand? Some banks actually went down. We know that those banks that went down they didn't commit, they didn't do. First Bank was also guilty of what they were guilty of. This is a fact. This is something that you can read. Some of them, they came back and said that it was personal grudge, personal fights, Oceanic Bank and Sanusi. This man, Akinbola, the man of Intercontinental, he said, and were they sent to prison? But their banks were gone.
No.
Their banks were gone. So, personally, it's going to take a lot to convince me that imagine like we have now in ICAN now. I have a practice, you have a practice, then somebody is now going to be the ICAN president. That let's assume we decide that somebody is going to be regulating practice, and the person was having a practice before. Will it be independent? Will it be transparent?
Never. The person cannot be transparent.
You must be away from me. You must be biased. We're all human beings. We're all human beings. Forget anything anybody tells you. I swear by Kineko. We're all human beings. As we are today now, if I become Minister for Finance, some of you, because we have lectured, you know me. Do you understand? All you need to do is to remind me that I was your student, a guy was your student, so place. Will you follow the queue again? You will not follow the queue now. Forget.
It depends on the personality. If you're that kind of person that don't tolerate nonsense,
what is wait, but let me tell you something. There will be some favor you are going to benefit.
Yes.
Even if it's just seeing me, it may be just to see me, which you will not be able to see me if not that I met you in this class. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Like me now, I practice. Even the years I used to practice, there are some FRS offices I enter. The reason I will get good, should I say, reception, because somebody identified and said, this was my lecturer. If the guy may not waive the rule for me, he's not going to waive the rules for me. But he's going to give me some form of, Oga, come and sit down here. Don't stand on the road. Do you understand? Or, the timeline for this response should have been 30 days. But, Oga, why are you coming now today? I was away. Oga, it's because of you. But let's deal with it. Something will happen. I'm just telling you that most times we are not as what we can independent in terms of judgment, generally when we have direct relationship. That's my own concerning. If we are going to appoint another CBN governor, we should not bring somebody that is actively in the running of a bank. Do you understand? If you have left the bank, if he's not own any bank, like the current CBN governor now, he doesn't own any bank. I think it's easy for him. Okay, so now we have discussed those 4 sources of internal borrowing from internal, and then let's go to external. Now, externally, we borrow money either by bilateral loan. What is bilateral loan? Those are the loans that a country goes to another country to borrow. For example, if we go to China to borrow from China, that is a bilateral loan between the two countries. Do you understand? And then we have multilateral agencies that fund debt. For example, IMF. What is multilateral agencies? These are agencies that are funded by a lot of countries, right? One of them is, for example, IMF, there is ADB, all of them. And then we can also fund debt through Eurobond. Recently, we started to use Eurobond to fund debt. Basically, what is Eurobond? Eurobond are bonds that are issued in foreign currencies. Basically, they are issued on international market and they are issued in dollars away from the currency of the country. Therefore, even the interest, the services, everything is based on foreign currency. Any question before we move to the impact of public debt? Now, public debt, the impact can be both positive or negative. When you borrow money and you are able to use the money to do infrastructural development, will there be a positive effect? Yes, there will be a positive effect. For example, when we borrow money to build roads, we are borrowing money now to build the coastal road, Abi. Hopefully, the multiply effect is that it's going to open up that access, and then people are able to generate more money by using those roads, and it's going to become faster for people to arrive at their destination. We borrowed money to do Lagos-Ibadan Railway. We borrowed a lot of Sukuk bond to build a lot of highways. I'm sure you see those highways when you are going around, Abi. They'll show you, they'll put a signboard to say that this is Sukuk Bond Road, Abi. Have you seen them somewhere in Abuja now? Is everybody is everybody in Abuja here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You see end of Sukuk, beginning of
Uh-huh.
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. You'll have seen them.
Yeah.
They are more, you see them more in Abuja or when you are traveling, and some in Lagos. I don't know about other states. I don't think I've seen it in those states. I've not seen anything like that, but you see them a lot in Abuja. Still that federal road, Abi, that Lokoja road.
Yes,
at that end.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the second impact of debt is that it helps government to stimulate economy and causes economic growth. Let me give a scenario how government spending can actually impact economic growth. Let's take, for example, road project. Now, let's take a road project of the Calabar Coastal Road. Do you have an idea of how much that project is?
No, sir.
Are you people not listening to news at all?
It's a lot. I'm trying to. I think per kilometer is around 1 trillion, if I'm not mistaken.
About that. So about we're going to spend 77 trillion on that road.
So it's about 1 point something trillion per kilometer.
We are going to spend 77 trillion on that road. Now, so imagine if our entire budget for the year, spending on across all the ministry agencies, 49 trillion. But we are going to be spending 77 trillion over the next 4 years to build that road. What is the implication? Let's take, for example, they build the first 10 kilometers of the road. The first 10 kilometers is 10 trillion. Number one, they award the contract to a company. That company will award contract for supply of materials, Abi. Maybe to Dangote to bring cement, Abi. They will buy, they said they want to do, the road is, concrete. They will give money to Dangote to sell to them cement. They will give iron ore. Do you understand? Assuming our iron ore in Itakpe is working properly, or Ajaokuta, they will have given us the steel to do that road. Now, I think they're going to be important. I don't know. But beyond those big players, there are small players, Abi. The small players is that they will need to employ a lot of laborers, right? Let's assume, for argument's sake, they are just going to employ 5,000 laborers. Now, apart from laborers, they need to employ engineers, architects, supervisors, and all that. So let's assume they do employ additional 2,000 of those ones, meaning that they already have 7,000 workforce that are there working and doing all those things. Now, delivering all these materials, they will need truck drivers, Abi. All these truck drivers will be paid by Dangote and all that. They will bring people that will offload, that will unload, that will do all that. Now, all those people will earn money, won't they? Now,
yes, sir,
they will earn money. Two, if you have noticed also, most of these working sites, you now start seeing a lot of mama put around it, Abi, because these people that are earning money, they will have to eat. The company will not give them food, Abi. There will be people that are selling food around them, selling even small things like granite and all those things. Those ones will also be earning money from them. Now, those people too will have to go to market, Abi. They will have to go and buy foodstuffs. That is the multiplier effect of government contracts. Because usually government is the biggest spender in the economy, right? It kind of expands the environment because it's working. Let me give you guys a real life story of, have you seen that where Kunle has his cap village before? In Igboja in Oyo State. Have you seen it before?
What?
Kunle Afolayan has a place called Cap Village in Oyo State where he shoots film. The village is the village is a very small village called Komu Igbojaye. It's after his saying. Now, when we were shooting Anukulakbo, the series, because of the extras that were needed, there were over 1,000 people in that movie. And therefore, more than 1,200 people were in that village at a particular time for like 3 months. What was the effect? The effect was that there was no house that was not used. Any house that those mud houses, people were sleeping in the rooms of those mud houses. Most of the people that had houses rented their houses to people. People that built their houses and they had locked their houses, they were in US or UK or Canada, they were told to come and open their houses and let somebody use their houses. Most interesting was that when they cook food, do you understand? The crowd will finish the food in one sweep. In fact, there was a lady that used to sell maize. She started to cry because she said she has never experienced it before, that she will bring maize and they will finish it in just one. So at a point, we started to give money to the people selling food, people selling maize, people doing akara, so that they have enough money to buy enough raw materials so that they can now do a lot than they were doing before. Do you understand? Like a loan. Because we saw that the set cannot manage, because we are giving food 3 times in a day. We're killing cows every day. Imagine the cows we kill for 3 months. Now, at the end of the day, what do you think will have been the multiplier effect of that in that environment? So you can see it's very easy for there will be development, and that's why most times you see people trying to pull a school to their village. Because once you pull a school to your village and student comes in there, they will rent houses, they will eat, and then there will be growth. So also, that is how government can use money to stimulate. So sometimes government do borrow. When they see that there is a kind of, the system is not active, do you understand? And they want to stimulate the economy so that there is growth in that economy, they can even borrow money so that do projects that they don't even, I can use what they don't need at that point, partly to stimulate the economy for growth. Yeah? Does that make sense to everybody now? Does that make sense to everybody now?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, the also positive effect of money, especially when you borrow money, is to strengthen the foreign reserve. Now, like we said that time, foreign reserve is a function of our money that we are saving based on the import and export, if it's depleted, we may need to borrow money to strengthen it, because it's also it has a direct effect on the value of our currency, right? Why do we have the Nigerian naira depreciating so hard? Is because our foreign reserve is not as low. Foreign reserve is a function of what you have that will give people trust that they don't need to even collect their money immediately. It means that the country is viable enough and they can pay over the years. But there's also the argument concerning how foreign reserve affect foreign exchange and all that, but that's not for this class. Now, but what are the negative effects of debt? Number one, it's debt overhang. Now, if you borrow so much money, it discourages investment in future income, because at the end of the day, you are spending all your money to pay debt, to repay loan, to service loan. Do you understand? And that is what you see in Nigerian economy. You see the fact that while we are talking of 49 trillion budget, 80% of that money is actually being used to finance debt, sadly. So it's only part of it that we are now using to do things. That's why we are borrowing. We are borrowing money to survive. We are living a fake life, Abi. We are living an Instagram lifestyle where we are borrowing money to live. It's a sad situation that we are in. Secondly, because if government is borrowing money from private sector, from the banks, will there be the need for the bank to borrow individuals? No. So too much of debt in the system, we crowd out private investment. People will rather borrow government money, because your savings, for example, if you know that you can borrow government money, why do you need to leave your money in the bank? You would rather just take your money and buy a treasury bill, or you buy a bond. Do you understand? You don't invest in any shares, because you know that there's no risk in this one. It's a risky investment, Abi. So why do you need to go into borrowing Mr. Sunday that wants to start a bakery money? The business can go flop. Do you understand? Rather, you just put your money in bonds and wait, and you know that you will be getting returns. That's also it. Then, thirdly, is the fact that we are borrowing for future generations. Imagine the amount of money we are owing at the moment. I think we said it that time. We're owing about 100 and something trillion already. Imagine what it is. How much can we pay in this generation? How much will the generations unborn, generation after us, how much will they pay? So we are putting a lot of burden on them so that they keep paying debt. It's like imagine your father leaving you debt to pay. And I think there's that joke of when a man dies, when they write his obituary, you can know if the man left something for. If they say the man died, I don't know how they say that joke. That if the man died and he said with gratitude to God or something like that, that the man left some things, but there's a way they will write the obituary. The man left a lot of debt for them, or the man died after he must have spent all his money or something like that. So imagine how our children will feel when they come into the Nigeria of tomorrow and they are still battling with the debt that we had incurred in 2025. The way we are battling with the debt that was incurred in 1980. Some of the debt are still here since 1980. Now, the fourth issue is the exchange rate and external vulnerability. Now, once we start borrowing a lot, our exchange rate suffers. And that is why it is difficult to manage our exchange. And that's why you saw that, if you have noticed, the exchange have been a bit balanced in the last 1 year. Am I right? But imagine doing that, we used to wake up every morning and dollar is rising by 10 naira, by 5 naira, and going higher. So those are the negative impact of borrowing money, actually public debt. Any question before we go to how we are managing debt. Do we take 5 minutes or break? I don't know, how do you do these classes, this online class? Do we take break or we just continue till 8:30?
The break is usually during
prayer.
Okay, what time is the prayer?
10 to 7 or so.
Okay. Well, okay, so let's continue. Okay, let's continue then. So let you remind me as we are going towards the prayer time, please.
Okay, sir.
Okay, how do we now manage debt in Nigeria? Now, because of we are borrowing money too much, we have become so much in borrowing money that we actually developed a framework concerning how debt is managed. And that is the issues around debt management. Debt management is the process of how do we plan, execute, and monitor that government borrowing is sustainable, it is cost effective, and aligned with development goals of Nigeria. Now, this is an interesting part of debt management, and there's a lot we are going to be talking about here. We are going to be going about what has happened in Nigeria. Some of them are political. Now, number one, because of that, we developed what we call the Debt Management Office. The Debt Management Office is basically the agency of government, federal government, because most states do not have it. When Debt Management Office was being set up, there was a kind of it's not recommendation, suggestion to the state for them to also develop a debt management office, maybe desk in their states to relate to the federal government. But some states, what they do is that they have it as part of their ministerial commissioner for finance office, but some don't even have it. That's why in some cases, it is when the governor goes that they'll start hearing the amount of debt that the state had borrowed under a particular governor, which is always very interesting. So, Debt Management Office was an agency formed to maintain the database of debt stock for government. It also is also in charge of issuing the debt instruments, some like treasury bills, bonds, sukuk, Eurobond, with the aid of the CBN. It advises government on borrowing strategy, how we should borrow, and also ensures that before we borrow, debt is sustainable. We'll be talking about debt sustainability very soon because it was a subject of the last diet question. Now, how do we justify or know that debt is sustainable? So part of the framework is that if we want to collect loan or debt, we must ensure that that debt is sustainable. Number one is that we look at what is the debt to GDP ratio, how sustainable it is. Now, can anybody explain what GDP is to me? GDP. Chiamaka, what's GDP? Is Chiamaka there? Hello, Chiamaka, are you there? Or you just put on your this thing and went to cook rice? Chiamaka is not there. Grace, are you there? Chiamaka, are you back?
Yes, I'm here.
What is GDP?
GDP is the gross domestic product of the country.
How do we calculate GDP?
Like the monetary value of all the goods and services that they produce within a particular time period.
Okay. So there is a way we calculate GDP, right? GDP is usually the government spending GDP is usually calculated as government spending plus consumer spending, Abi, plus investments, plus the difference between export minus import. Am I right?
Yes.
Now, so the question is, what is the GDP to debt? Why do we say that? Now, let's give an individual as an example. Your GDP is how much revenue you earn. Now, you can earn revenue beyond your salary, Abi, and that's why we have personal income tax. For example, there are people that have maybe your father gave you a house somewhere in Lagos, Abi, and you are earning rent from it. And then one person that is earning salary with you will now compare you to himself, Abi, but not knowing that aside from salary, you also get rent. So it means that if you approach a bank, both of you approach a bank, and you are both asking for the same, say 10 million naira, it is possible that you're able to get the 10 million because they will look at your salary and they will look at the rent you are getting from the houses that your father gave you, whereas this person only has salary, Abi, it means that this person may not be able to get it, and that is why GDP is important. Now, I want you to also underline the one of export minus import. Now, the second thing we need to do when you're doing debt sustainability is the debt service revenue. How much of your revenue is being used to service your debt? So let's assume you are earning 100,000 naira a month, right? But you want to use 80K to service debt. It means you just have 20,000 residual income. Oga Sunday, as a banker, I'm sure you will not borrow this man money if he knows that he's already using 80K to service debt. Am I right?
Yes, you can't borrow more than 33% of his earnings.
So it means that the maximum he can borrow is 33,000, Abi? Because he's earning 100,000. So if he comes and apply for a loan, and let's say he has applied for 100,000, it means that the maximum you can deduct from his salary is 33,000. It means that he's going to pay over the next 5 months or something like that, so that it can become a debt that you can give to him. So that's also a very important key. The next one is, what is the reserve that the person has, Rabi? Just like the country. What is the reserve? What is the exchange rate stability? First, let's talk of reserve. Let's even bring it back to individual. Now, the reserve is, for example, you may have had savings before. That's why they say, what is your equity participation in this loan? How much can you bring? Equity is what you have in savings, Abi, that you can use to start. So you want to borrow 100,000, and they say go and bring 20K as equity, and you're able to go and bring it from your reserve. That means you have money. Do you understand? Or you can show evidence to show that, oh, I have some reserve, I have a bond, I have a mutual fund that is there. In case I default on this one, you can use that one to cover the debt. The person will borrow it. That's almost like a collateral. The other one is, how stable is your foreign exchange? Now, how stable is foreign exchange is also a function of your import and export, and how it affects how the economy is able to generate money, Abi, how the GDP is rising. So those are the things that are usually reviewed when it comes to debt sustainability. We're going to be looking at that as a question in another, but does anybody have any question? I hope you guys are still with me in there.
So we are here.
Because I can't hear some people. Grace is being quiet. When I was in LBS, Lagos Business School, when we are doing any Zoom meeting, one of the rules is that you should put on your camera. The reason is that some people can put on their camera. I mean, they can be in the class with like this, but actually they are not there. I hope that's not the case. So, okay, so let us go into the challenges that we face when it comes to debt management framework in Nigeria. What are the challenges? Number one is that our resources are limited. You know, Nigerians don't like to pay taxes, Abi. Do you agree?
Yes, they want everything, but they don't want to pay for anything.
They don't want to pay for anything. So that's number one. Raising taxes in Nigeria is very difficult. Even you can imagine that sometimes you see a legislator and you know that this man has earned nothing less than $1 billion in a year from whatever. He want to file a return and he says that I want to file a return of 150,000. That's a legislator. The man that his salary and his expenses and everything is part of a government, he will not want to pay. Talk less of the people on the street. Paying is very, very difficult in Nigeria. So sometimes, except they are doing all these reforms they are doing, our resources are limited. And it takes a lot for any government to even do reforms like the tax reform that government is doing now. Because most times, most politicians rather borrow money than raise taxes. Do you understand? Because once you raise taxes, people don't like being burdened. And they'll say the man is a bad man. Why is he raising taxes? But they want the better Nigeria, but they don't want to pay. So, number one challenge is that government raising money. A lot of people are still under the tax bracket. They're not paying anything. Two is that there are risk, a lot of risk when we raise money in Forex. Now, let's give an instance. Let's give you the instance of loan. Of the loan, for example, let's assume we borrowed $10 million before Buhari. What was the rate before Buhari?
It's CBI rate 400 and something.
So
400 to 450.
450. So if you borrow $10 million at that time, times 450 naira, right? What is that in naira?
4.5 billion.
Okay, 4.5 billion naira. Now, immediately before Buhari was leaving, we got to 1,700 Abi.
Yes.
So this same money, $10 million, if we have not paid it and it's still there at 1,700, equals like 117 billion, Abi, 105 billion. Abi, am I right?
Yes, 17 billion actually.
17, no, trillion. It goes to 1.7 trillion.
Okay, 1.7, yes, 1.7 trillion, sorry.
1.7 trillion. You can see the same $10 million. Just the same $10 million, but translated different times. Do you understand? Has increased because the depreciation of dollars. While we in the private sector, we are losing our value in terms of assets, government is also losing value in terms of loan. And that's also, remember that time that the banks came out and said that they were declaring a lot of losses because of exchange rate, Abi? You remember that time, Abi?
Yes, sir.
A lot of banks came out and said, oh, we lost so much money because those are the things that cost it. Now, the second challenge we had, which I don't think it will continue in Nigeria, except we are foolish enough, is this ways and means. That over the last 4, 5, 8 years, 7 years, rather than borrowing and be transparent, federal government just goes ahead and prints new set of money, which has caused us a lot of problem. Going forward, hopefully, and the new government has shown that they are not going to be printing new money. Let's believe that they will not do the same if the thing is the ceiling and they can't borrow anymore, because now they still have the the goodwill to borrow, and that's why they are still borrowing. So those, and then the limited capital project, after borrowing this money, we don't see this project. For example, I listened to the former minister for works, Rotimi Amesha, not works, it was transport, Abi. And he mentioned the amount of money they borrowed to do XYZ, and you can't see those projects being done. Do you understand? Unfortunately, we are borrowed the money, and therefore we have to pay the interest and all that. So it's a big challenge if money is borrowed and then we can't see the effect of that money. Now, the same, I know I've spoken of this, and this is a repetition, the negative effect and positive is a repetition. I've spoken about that before. Let's go into the question 6 of May diet. We use this one to go through prayers. When are we going for prayer? It's 6:32. When are we going for prayer?
By 6:40, sir.
6:40.
6:40.
Okay, so I'll read this question for us, then we'll go for prayer. Then when we come back, the question will be the starting point of the next session. The question is, the debt management a key component of public finance management enables government to meet its financing needs at the minimum cost and within acceptable level of risk. One method government uses in managing its debt portfolio is annually conducting a debt sustainability analysis. Required. Explain what constitutes total public debt. 2 marks. Define the term debt sustainability and state the main objective of conducting debt sustainability exercise. 5 marks. Explain the benefits of conducting the annual DSA. 5 marks. And then explain the action which can be taken to reduce accumulation of debt. 3 marks, totaling 15 marks. This was May last diet. I don't know if you guys have seen this question. So while we are going for prayer, I want us to have it in our mind. You can research about it so that when we come after prayer, we can continue from there. When are we reconvening after prayer?
7 o'clock, sir.
7 o'clock. Okay, great. So we have between now, this is 6:35 for my own timing here. I hope our time is in sync. Let's reconvene again by 7 o'clock.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Sorry, I want to ask a question.
Please go ahead.
If I want to download like a past question from ICAN Pack, how will I do it online?
No, just type ICAN Pathfinder.
Okay.
Type ICAN on the Google search bar, and to bring a lot of the past questions to you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. So we see in the next that's like 15 minutes thereabouts, right? Okay, go on, everybody. So you're welcome back. Welcome back to, should I call it session 2, Abby? Okay, before we left in the last session, I had read out the question. The question is question 6 of the last diet, which will form the basis of our starting this session. So I think I want this to be as interactive as possible, and so that I can understand everybody's mindset when it comes to answering this kind of question. So first, explain what constitutes total debt. The rain has come in my hand though. I hope you guys can hear me clearly. Okay, great. Now, so what constitutes total public debt? Who can help us with that? Should I leave Mr. Sunday? Grace. What constitutes total debt? Total public debt. 2 marks. I want you to explain it. The question is explain what constitutes total public debt. Make an attempt, please.
Understanding.
Yes.
Okay, so to understanding what you thought, one of the major reasons that constitutes public debt is inappropriate use of public funds, which can also lead to excess borrowing, like in the case of Nigeria. Because we borrow excess, we don't manage our resources, so we tend to borrow. At the end of the day, we become indebted, and it keeps passing on from one region to another.
Is that what constitutes total public debt? Is that Ajoke? Is that what constitutes total public debt? Is Ajoke there? I think Ajoke just put on this is the second time I'm calling Ajoke. The person just put on the this thing that is not even attending any of the class. Okay. Chiamaka, what constitutes total public debt? Sorry?
Long-term debt. Long-term.
Long-term debt is what constitutes total public debt. Okay. Lati, what constitutes total public debt? Lati, what constitutes total public debt, please? Is Lati there? Latifat, I mean, I'm sure.
Borrowing in general.
Oh, Ajoke, you're welcome. Borrowing in general. I want you to explain it.
It's raining here, that's right.
Oh, it's also raining. That means you are in Abuja. Okay. Mr. Sunday, what constitutes total public debt? It's important we understand this, right? I'm listening to you, sir.
Okay. What constitutes total public debt is the internal and external borrowings. That's the domestic borrowing and the foreign borrowing of government.
Excellent. Mr. Sunday has mentioned the key words I wanted to hear. And that is why it is very important that when you are answering questions, you make sure you identify the key component of it. Total debt, when we started, that was the first thing I explained. Total debt is the aggregate of borrowing of government. Aggregate of borrowing from government, from both internal and external. From both internal and external. It's also, that is domestic and foreign debt. So it refers, and usually to get these 2 marks, the first thing you need to first explain is that the total debt is the aggregate of the debt liabilities of government. Then you also need to ensure that you identify that it includes the debt from both domestic and also external debt. Now, what's the second part of the question? The second part is said, define the term debt sustainability and state the main objective of conducting a debt sustainability exercise. So what is debt sustainability? I've explained it before. Let's go again. Who can help us? What is debt sustainability? The question is, you define the term debt sustainability and state the main objective. What is debt sustainability? Alima is back. Alima, what is debt sustainability? Is Alima there? Shamaka, what is debt sustainability? I'd explained it before.
Ability to service debt, thereby reducing borrowings, government borrowings.
It's not to reduce borrowings, actually. It's ability to service debt so that you do not default on the debt, and the debt you have incurred does not have any effect on the economic activities, right? So you are able to meet your obligations for today, you are able to meet your future obligations, and both has no effect on your economy. So let's take for example, if you are an individual, you have borrowed money. The question is, can your salary carry the debt that you are owing? Less, do you understand? Secondly, not just today, in future, what are those things that can affect it? Let's even go into the debt sustainability indicator that I explained the other time. Let me go back to this and then pick my pen to explain this. Now, you know, when we were discussing before, I explained that debt sustainability is a function of one, debt stock. Now, and that was what I was explaining to you that time, that when we have internal debt and we have external debt, and usually the internal debt can be naira while the external debt is in dollars, right? And then this external debt in dollars, we show that time that if you owe the same $10 million over a period of time, that same 10 million changes, right? In terms of value, not because of anything, just because of the value, the fact that depreciation happens to naira. So number one is the fact that is one of the risks that happens when you are looking at your debt sustainability. What is the effect of currency exchange, the change in currency exchange rate and all that on it, and the composition of your debt? Who have you borrowed money from? If a lot of the money are internal, for example, if a lot of the money are internal, it means that you can manage it. Because if I borrow 1 million naira from you today, and in 5 years' time, what I'm going to pay you back is 1 million naira. It will not be a case of you telling me that 1 million naira has lost value. Abi, you will collect 1 million naira back in 5 years' time. However, while dollar is still dollar, the equivalent of the same dollar today may not be the same. Either it has increased in value or it has reduced in value. Are you following me, everyone?
Yes, sir.
So debt sustainability is your ability of any country to meet its current and future debt services. Do you understand? Without resorting to debt relief, without arrears accumulation or disrupting the economic adjustment. You are not changing anything. So it's only when you cannot sustain your debt, they cannot start telling you to do things like SAP. Remember that structural adjustment program that we're doing in Nigeria? So the essence, the objective of debt sustainability is to look and review of the ability of the country to pay its debt in the medium and to long term. How do you now determine that a company can pay debt? Is one, making sure that economic activity does not slow down. Activity, that's measured in terms of GDP, Abi, doesn't slow down. GDP keeps increasing, and that is one of the things that makes the country to know that we can keep paying our money. The other one is the physical stability. We have not borrowed so much money that we don't have any money to do any other thing in terms of physical stability. And the third one is ability to service our debt without now endangering development. So, meaning development still goes on. Those are the three major reasons why we must conduct debt sustainability on an annual basis. So now that I've explained that, can you explain the benefit of conducting it? Take it from what I've just explained now. Can anybody explain the benefit of conducting a debt sustainability analysis on an annual basis? Somebody should give me one. Madam Grace, any benefit that you, based on what I've said, that is there of?
I was hearing you. My network is breaking. I didn't hear the explanation you gave. My network was breaking out.
So I will explain again because I want you to answer the question. Now, did you hear the definition of debt sustainability? Grace, please put on your mic. I want you to know that. I want you to. Any other person didn't hear my explanation? Favor, did you hear my explanation? Is Favor there?
So you're breaking.
Can I?
Please go ahead. I'm breaking. You guys hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay. What part did you miss in my explanation?
Right from when you were defining the debt sustainability, sir.
Okay. Mr. Sunday, did you hear when I defined it?
I did, sir.
Can you explain it? Can you help me?
You said debt sustainability is the ability to service debt obligation in both present and future, in present and future events without default.
Without default and disrupting. One of the key words there, disrupting the economic activities.
Okay.
Do you understand? Why will we say that? Is that you don't say because, okay, for example, if you borrow money as an individual, because you have not borrowed money, you say you're not paying your students' school fees anymore. Do you understand? You not tell your wife that, I'm in debt too. We are not eating in this house. We can't eat any food. We have to be fasting until I pay the money. Do you understand? You are disrupting the flow of life. Basically, the same thing happens in government. That when you are borrowing money, how sustainable is that money? How do we determine that debt you have incurred is sustainable? It's number one, that it shows that you have ability to pay it both now and in future. However, in determining that ability, you are not disrupting anything. For example, you don't say, oh, we are no more building roads, we are no more funding, or we are even no more paying salaries because you have incurred debt. And I think must have heard some of the state government will say that because you are owing money, we cannot pay salaries. I don't know if you have heard of those stories, have you? It means the debt that they've incurred, it is not sustainable. Then I went ahead to explain how you can determine how debt is sustainable. And that was when I showed you that, one, you review the debt stock. When we're doing the review that time, when we're doing debt review, we said, one, the GDP to debt, Abi, GDP, the interest to revenue, the debt services to revenue, the debt to GDP, and then the risk of forex. Now, what are those things that can cause those things to change? Number one is, what kind of debt are you holding? Are they all internal or are they all external? If they are mixed between external and external, what is the composition of it? If there is more of external, that's why I said that the debt of $10 million today can be 45 million billion yesterday and rise to 1.7 trillion just because the foreign exchange fell. Then I now said also, how do you ensure that we also need to check that your GDP is continuously growing? What are you doing to make sure the GDP grows? Two, is the physical nature of the country stabilized? Those were the major things I said that you need to review to now see that, oh, yes, the debt is sustainable. Then I now said, based on this, you should be able to explain the benefit of conducting a test, the annual debt servicing analysis. Number one is that when you conduct that steps, it's be able to give you warning. Can the country pay its debt? It's like you are reviewing your it's like, what's they call that thing in private sector? We call it going concern, Abi. Remember the word going concern, Abi? Can you define going concern?
Going concern is like the ability of a business of a company to remain in business
for foreseeable future. Foreseeable future. That is the key word there. Do you understand? It's not just to remain in business. You must add foreseeable future, the future that you can see. Do you understand? So when you are doing this debt, what do you call it, sustainability analysis is like saying, are we in going concern every year? Do you understand? Based on what we have reviewed, our GDP, fiscal stability, dollar exchange, and all the risk and the debt profile that we have, we see that for foreseeable future, we are able to meet our obligation. However, if we do that review and we see that maybe GDP is struggling, government cannot spend money because most of the money are used to service loan, the people in Nigeria are increasing to import more than export. There is physical instability. Then we can now know, okay, meaning that there's a challenge I want to have in future. Now, secondly, it helps government to plan borrowing because you know that you'll be able to see your limits. That if I go and collect another 1 trillion from IMF, I may run into issues. Do you understand? Because now you already know your benchmark, you already know your limit, so to say. To say this is the height. If I go above this, I will run into problem. Now, it also informs of issues of fiscal and monetary policy. What do we need to do? I hope people that are in public sector, I understand that public sector is not paying any contract again, especially capital projects. Am I right? Hello? Okay. The reason is that they are trying to reduce the amount of money in circulation. Do you understand? So that inflation can also drop. And that's why sometimes government is restricting the amount of money they are spending generally. And all this is pointing to trying to make sure that our debt sustainability is still as ranking as it should be. And one of the other things that does to you is that it improves the country's integrity to creditors. Creditors, you can see our ratings have been increasing in some of these international rating organization, Abi, because they are now saying that Nigeria has ability to pay its debt in the future, and that is why some of these things are increasing. So those are the benefits of conducting it. What are the actions that we need to take in Nigeria? Do you understand? To reduce the accumulation of public debt. What are the actions that we need to take to reduce the accumulation of public debt? Number one, let me give you what causes public debt first. First thing, what causes public debt? Number one thing that causes public debt, aside from the other ones, is the fact that you have a budget. And in that budget, you have revenue that is not matching up to your expenses. Expenditure is higher than revenue. And to match it up, what do? You borrow money, Abi. So if you want to reduce public debt, the first thing is that you increase revenue. Am I right?
Yes.
Second thing is that you reduce expenses. Am I right? If you reduce expenses, it's either you increase revenue, it's either you increase your revenue so that your revenue can match the amount of money you want to spend, or you reduce your expenses so that it also come down to the level of of your revenue, or you increase your financial management in terms of how people are even spending money. That's how you reduce waste. When we make argument to say government should not fly on private jets, they should fly on economic business aircraft rather than flying on private jets, right? Or you say the convoy of president is too much. They need to reduce the convoy. All those kind of things. Those are things that can reduce accumulation of public debt. One of the other ones that can also reduce public debt is private and public partnership. Government used to go and incur debt because they need to do some things. What if those things can be done by private sector in conjunction with public sector? For example, Lekki-Ikoyi link bridge, the entire of that Lekki Lekki-Epe road was done by private sector, abi? MM2 was actually done by private sector to be collecting his money. Although that's another argument later on what now happened later on between government and those who that funded that one. Because I believe, for example, if we allow private individuals to build the Abuja-Lokoja road, they will have finished building it by now, abi? And then tow it and be collecting toll from it. What's the moon, sir? What's the moon? You don't want them to get involved?
That is trying to say, no, that is trying to say it will take a long time. That's the
No, it will not take a long time to build. If a private sector is building that, they will have completed it in less than 2 years. Because they will go and borrow money. Do you understand?
He said, because he knows that people will just generate more money.
Yes, now.
Into their personal.
That is why it is private now. Do you understand? It is private. If it's private, the private.
If it's private, they will not. Because...
I don't understand the who. You guys just say who. Let me understand your argument. Let's take the instance, say Lagos. Let's say the Lokoja to Abuja Expressway. We get a private sector. Let's call it Mr. Sunday and Co. Nigeria Limited to build that road and then toll it. The toll is that by the time you are climbing, by the time you get to Lokoja, once you are about to get on that road, you pay toll. Or if you are coming in from Abuja, once you get to Giri, you pay toll. And then you put toll, for people that are coming in between, they put toll on strategic maybe every 20 kilometers. What do you have to say if that is done?
Well, sir, for me, what I have to say, if it's a private firm,
yes,
I will suggest they don't do a cash transaction. Do you understand what I mean? When they are collecting payment for towing.
No, that's another thing. That's another thing entirely.
Yes.
That's another thing entirely. I'm talking of this one. What I'm saying, argument is that, we have been building that road. I don't know how many of you have been. Me, I got to Abuja in 2000. The year 2000, that's when I came to Abuja. Since I've been in this Abuja, that road has never been completed.
Eh? This government will complete the road.
Let's take it one after the other. Do you understand? I'm not saying they will not complete. I'm saying, assuming it was given to a private sector, wouldn't they have completed it? They will have, let's say,
they would have finished it in
maximum 5 years.
They would have finished it in a short time.
That's what I'm saying. They will have, because they
too look for a way to get their money back
by towing the road, Abi. They will have been will have been paying toll on those roads. The road will have, and then they will have even put other facility on the road. Maybe make sure that there is a ambulance on the road.
Yes, and still manage
and still remove the pothole. Now that means we don't need to go as a government to go and borrow money from China to do that road. I hope you understand what I'm saying now.
Yes, sir.
We don't need to. So what does that effect happen is that that means our debt profile as a country will reduce. It's like you are doing what do you call this, private, all those developers in Lagos. If you have land in Lagos now, if you have land in not now, every time developers can approach you and say, this is your father's land. There's only 2 plots of 4 flats on it. We'll break it down and build 15 flats on it. We'll give you 3 flats to be collecting the rent, and we'll collect the rent of the amount, the remaining 11 flats for the next 10 years, and then hand over to your family. It's something similar to that. You are not owing anybody, but you are getting income. So federal government will get income. The only problem we have seen is this. We have to also problem we have seen is that the valuation of that PPP is always humongous. That was the argument that happened on the Lekki Ikoyi bridge. When Babala King mentioned the amount of supposedly they spent to build that bridge, we cannot finish paying that money in 40 years. Do you understand? Those are the problems. People now because people now go and overinflate it. But so what am I saying is that essentially those are the things that can reduce accumulation of debt. One, we improve revenue mobilization like what this government is doing. We are trying to make sure that taxes is better. We get more money from taxation. Two, we reduce spending so that we don't borrow money, right? We strengthen public financial management system to reduce waste and leakages where revenue is being leaked, and that's one of the reasons why. Are you read the new law, the Nigerian Revenue Service Law, and the new Tax Act? Have you guys read it? You are not reading it. Now you are doing ICAN. Oh, now you are doing ICAN. Please, don't be watching only Instagram reels of people that are just showing clothes and hair. Be reading metrics. Be reading all those things that relate to things that, because those are the kind of examples you give in exam more. And some of them can become even a question. Do you understand? They can come out as a question but you'll be able to use the should I say real life example that I have read to answer them. Okay, so we have answered. That means we have answered that question now, Abi.
Yes, sir.
We have answered that. So with that, at least, no matter how it is in that 15 marks, if we're able to get 13, we'll give the marker 2 marks to carry home, Abi. We are good to go.
Yes.
Okay, now this is just an illustration. This is to show you from the budget that we have, the capital, the amount we are spending on debt servicing. You can see that we are spending 61%. This entire place is what we are spending on debt servicing in Nigeria. This entire, so it's about we are spending about 61% on debt servicing, while we only have about 14%. We have capital expenditure about 14 trillion and then statutory transfers on it. So this is just the capital. Imagine this is all we are. Imagine all this portion. Imagine this pie chart. All this portion is basically to service our debt from the entire budget of the year. You can see how bad it is for us. At least, even if we are spending 40% and we have additional money to do other things, it would have been better. But the case of where we are now, where most of the money, even if it's like this, and this part is debt servicing, we're migrating small. You can see where we are. So, two, I also want for illustration purposes, just also show you the amount of money we are getting from oil revenue and non-oil revenue. The reason for this, sometimes there's always an argument on saying that somebody will tell me, we are getting about 80% of our revenue from oil. Have you heard of those arguments before?
Yes, sir. It's a common argument.
Yes, sir.
It's a common argument. The government is no, it's not correct. You can see that even in some budgets in the past years, especially during Buhari time, when we had a lot of leakages, when in terms of revenue from oil, the non-oil was even bigger than the oil. And what are these non-oil? It is money we are raising from taxes, from other incomes, from CBN and all that. This is all what is there. So again, to explain that most times when people are arguing and say Nigeria is oil rich, because if you go and look at Saudi Arabia or Dubai's budget, you see that revenue is 90-something% from revenue from oil. Not our case. Do you understand? So, meaning that we are not as oil rich as we are saying. Now, when you now divide this, the amount of money we are making from oil by the number of citizens in Nigeria, it will make it more ridiculous how much we're actually making from oil. Ladies and gentlemen, now that we have discussed debt, we have discussed how to manage debt, let's go to surplus. As they say in life, everything has what do you call that thing? The opposite side of it. There's every good has a bad, and every bad has a good. So sometimes it is possible also that you have in the country surplus rather than having debt, right? What is public surplus? Public surplus is if at the end of the why did I have this thing here? You know, the surplus should have been the total. This should not be here. It occurs when the expenditure it's below the amount of money, the revenue it has gotten. So let's assume we generated 100 million. Yeah, assume we have 100 trillion as our revenue, and then we have expenses of 80 trillion. 20 trillion will become our what do you call it? Surplus. Now that is usually a positive thing in government, though it is a rare occasion, except from very few countries. Most times, even in the United States, they rarely have a case where there is budget surplus. Now, so the question is, how do we use surplus? Number one way we use surplus is that we can use it to build our fiscal reserves, so that, like we say, we are planning for rainy day. We will keep the money should we need it in the future, so that we can use it to do whatever we need in the future. Number two way we can use public surplus is by using it to repay debt. So if we have had debt over time, we can actually use the surplus that we have made to pay off the debt that we have. And I think we have done it in the past, because, for example, we had this Paris Club. You follow when Obasanjo had to get us out of Paris Club, Abi? Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, he went to negotiate something like that.
Excellent. So when he negotiated, they explained to him that, okay, if you pay social amount, we'll forgive the remaining. So what happened? Obasanjo paid $12 billion, and then they forgave us $18 billion. And that was why we were debt-free from Paris Club. But interestingly, we quickly accumulated the debt again after Obasanjo. Nigeria is a very interesting country. Two is that three, we can also use public surplus to do capital investments. Do you understand? We can use it to build infrastructure, do development projects. We are going to come and talk of sovereign, Nigerian sovereign investment trust fund and all that. We can also use it to do economic stabilization. For example, though we are borrowing money to do that now, look at the example of, say, we have so much money and we're able to give student loans to students. That will stabilize the economy. Schools that students are attending that they cannot pay school fees, they will be able to pay their school fees, and then those economy can actually grow. And then we can also use money that we have in terms of surplus to plan for our future generation unborn. Those are the things we will be talking under Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Investment Trust Fund. Now, what are the advantage of and disadvantage of public surplus? Like I said, the advantage is that we can use it to reduce the loan, any loan that we have. We can use it to so that we don't need to borrow money at all. We can use it to stabilize the economy. It even helps us in terms of improving our credit rating because people know that you always have surplus. People will be able to borrow money. They know that you will not default because you have money, so to say. And then that also helps you in terms of future investment. Do you understand? You can actually invest in the future. However, everything that has positive also have negative. Now, most times when you have public surplus, it may really indicate that the government is not spending money on what you should spend money on. Do you agree?
No, sir.
You don't agree?
Maybe government does not know what to do with the money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, I thought you said no, sir.
No,
Because really,
no, it's food and
okay. Oh, no wonder because the way I heard it, I thought because really, if you are spending money on what you spend, usually you may not have that savings enough to keep. And that's one of the things that some of us have asked when our dear presidential candidate Obi will say, "Oh, I left so many money in Anambra State when I was living." And people asked him, "What did you do that you left those money?" But do you know where those money came from? I don't want to. How many obedience that I hear? Anybody from Anambra here? Because I've heard the allegations that when he was in government, he was not allowing the local government to function at all. He was not giving them, he was not paying people, what do you call it, he was not paying for contract and all those things and all that. I'm not from Anambra State. But those are the kind of things that happens, when you select sectors that you want to work on and leave other sector, you can talk of the sector you worked on and those other sectors, it's really not been done. So another thing that causes when you have too much of surplus is that there's always political pressure to mismanage it, especially in Nigeria. That is why you will see that our SS crude account, some government will come and just remove everything that is there.
Don't do that.
No, I think that's not the correct. Your history is wrong. Oh. Jonathan actually did well to build it. Oh. No, that's why I said in this class, you are no more a novice in public finance. You are becoming an authority. And that's why you need to go and research and look at it, what actually happened. I will come to that and you see, let me also give you a pointer. If you remember very well, when Buhari came into power, he bailed out the state, Abi.
Yes.
Can you guys remember Buhari bailed out the state? He bailed out the state from the money Jonathan left in SS crude account. We'll come back to that now. I'm not in this class, we're not speaking for any government. We are just learning so that in case we become Minister for Finance tomorrow or you are in a gathering, because the amount of what I can call illiteracy that we evangelize in Nigeria is mind-blowing. People sit down and say all kind of nonsense. And a lot of people buy it because why? We are the laziest when it even come to research. There are some things that are easy. Just type in on Google, you find the results. But people will not do that. They'll just sit down and be posting it and reposting it. Even some people will go to your LinkedIn profile and post it. By the way, I hope you all have LinkedIn. I hope everybody here has their LinkedIn profile updated. You're updating as you are doing some things once in a while. Because now, some of us who employ people now based on, I don't employ based on CV anymore. I employ based on LinkedIn. It's just like in movie industry, they don't employ based on this thing, they employ based on your Instagram followers. So please, I will encourage you because once you submit your CV, my team, and I see that a lot of even, not just we small practices, large practices, even companies that you want to work with, they will go and check how your LinkedIn profile is it true? some of the things you've stated you have been doing, because some people send CV to you, it's at variance with their LinkedIn entirely. They'll go and cook some jobs that they said they did, blah, blah, blah. But LinkedIn, we can actually now say, okay, if you actually worked in, say, census board, can we see any colleague in your list that worked with you at the same time? Do you understand? That is validation that you actually work, because now people cook CV like so bad these days. Okay, so I said some people even go on their LinkedIn and be writing some things that are not correct, but we'll come to that matter when we're going to reviewing SS crude account and how it became what do you call it, sovereign wealth fund. Excellent. Now, so there's always political pressure to mismanage. There's also most times there's reduced economic growth, because most time when government is not spending, because government is the biggest spender. Imagine Tinubu is not constructing any road. And imagine the road that Wike has even constructed in Abuja. Imagine the multiplier effect of it. If those roads are not constructed, there are possibilities that there will not be funds, do you understand, in the economy for people that will have used it, Abi. Economic growth will have reduced. Now, it also can cause inflation if you don't manage, because sometimes surpluses can mean that people are not spending what they should spend, and it can fuel inflation instead of stabilizing it. Now, you understand those two things? How do we manage surpluses in Nigeria? Now, we have adopted basically two measures. One is the SS crude account, and the second one is Nigerian sovereign wealth. What is SS crude account? Let me give explanation. Now, I'm sure you are aware that crude oil sales is usually benchmarked across the world, Abi. Am I right?
That's correct. What's their name?
OPEC.
OPEC, yes.
So, and they gave you the amount of crude oil that you can sell as a country. Do you understand? So, that is the basis of how we do our budget. So, let's assume in the year 2025, they gave us the estimate of crude oil sales. The cost of crude oil per barrel will be $40 per barrel. Right? Just for this class alone, let's assume they gave us that we are only allowed to sell 1,000 barrels. That is $40, right? Times 1,000 barrels, Abi. Equals to how much are we going to get from there? 40 times 1,000, sir. Or mark.
That's 40,000.
So we are going to generate $40,000 from there. Now, if we are now lucky, there's now war between Ukraine and Russia, Abi, or Saudi Arabia, that is a major oil producer, is going to political crisis. Oil prices now goes to become $100 per barrel. It means that we are going to be getting, instead of getting 40,000, we are getting 100,000. Now, what Obasanjo did, Obasanjo first introduced the SS crude account. Now, I'm not giving him because, you know, during military, we didn't know what they instituted, but Obasanjo did it as a governor, as a president. What Obasanjo said is that since we have benchmarked our budget, do you understand, on 40,000, we plan to spend 40,000. The moment you are getting above 40,000, rather than spending that 100,000, take the 60,000 to excess crude account. Do you understand? And then we will now use this one to do debt management and all those things. We will not be spending it, so that you will only spend what you are planned to earn. Let me give you an example. So as an individual, you are working in a bank, you are working in an institution, you know your salary, let's assume your salary is 500,000, right? This month, you planned that this August, I'm going to earn 500,000. Based on that, you have planned your fuel, Abi. You have planned your food. You have planned everything. However, you go to the office and they said that they are sharing profit sharing, Abi, for the bank, Abi. And they now say, Mr. Sunday, we are going to pay you additional 3 million naira. You have the option to sit down and plan what are you going to do that 3 million to do, or assume that that is another normal income, Abi, and enter town. Do you understand? That's when you remember that I don't take away, I chop a whole cow. How much is a cow sef? They say na 1 million. Bring 1 cow, make we put am for inside freezer. Am I getting somewhere? Because next month you are going to be getting 500,000. Now let's assume next month there was now something that happened. You now needed to spend additional 200,000 other than your 500,000 salary. But because you didn't save the money you had last month, Abi, you are running into issues. So what I just said, let's keep this money because it's not planned. It's excess of the crude sales. What happened? There was war between the state government and federal government. Abi?
Yes, sir.
All the state government championed by Lagos State. Interestingly, this is an interesting topic that if I can take a whole day to analyze it. If you remember that time, the lead counsel that was engaged by Lagos State that time, do you know who it was? Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Professor Yemi Osinbajo. It was with Lagos State as attorney of Lagos State. And then they went to court and said that the federal government has no right to hold any money because what the federation account law says is that all money that are earned in the federation account are earned and are shared based on a revenue allocation formula. Do you understand? Therefore, you have no right to do that for us. You can do that for yourself, but not for the federation. Because what Obasanjo was proposing before was that we will reserve that money in a general federation account and use it over the years. And then they won the case because at that time, the excess crude account was an agreement that the governors had. That time we had PDP government, right? And then the APC government, that time it was AD and ACN. They said, no way, we will not agree. And Abga, do you understand? We will not agree. You have to give us our money. And then federal government started to pay all the money. What happened? Most of the states started to do urban renewal. You remember that project that most of the ACN states were not doing that time? If you go to Oyo State, Lagos State, Oshogbo, they started planting grasses on the road, started building flyovers because they had enough money to spend. You guys are not noticing that time, Abi? You're not noticing?
Everywhere, 6 months.
Most of those ACN states that time, they were using their money to do urban renewal. All of them had a project. In fact, Oyo State even changed the logo of Oyo State. All the states, even what they call it, Oshogbo became arrogant. They started calling it the state of Oshogbo. What did they call it at that time? So federal government now went back. And then under Jonathan, we now had another one. They now had what they called the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. And what Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority was doing was that it now became a law, a federal government law, to say that when we have any money above what we have planned, do you understand? We are going to be breaking it into this fund, and this fund will be broken also further into 3 parts: stabilization fund, future generation fund, and infrastructure fund. And under Okojowela, we had a very good, robust fund for these three. And that was the fund, part of what the fund that Buhari met, and then we started to go all out again. Started to spend as if there's no tomorrow. And that's why we ran into the problem that we finally ran to when Buhari was leaving. We started to do ways and means, borrow unlimited. In fact, at that point, even the states were allowed to borrow as they will, and then we ran into all this crisis that we are in. So, like I keep telling everybody, I think this government it came in at the point where it's in trouble. It's really managing Nigeria as best as they can. So, ladies and gentlemen, that comes to the end of today's class. Do we have any question? I think we're supposed to be about 8:30, but I think we still have some time. If you have any question, I can answer those questions. And these are my details. That's my phone number. That's my private email. You can get me on LinkedIn by typing that. And if you are, I'm not too Instagram person or Facebook person, but yes, you can find me on Instagram, same Bayode Agbi. You can find me on Facebook, same Bayode Agbi. All my profile is usually Bayode Agbi simply. Like I said before, I run the accounting firm called Agbi Bayode & Co. And I run that outsourced accounting firm called Pillarcraft. I'm also the founder of that Usawa Cloud Accounting Services. And if you check online also, I think I must have had a video of this public debt somewhere online before. Is you can check past ICAN online. What I will also try to do, because I will also be posting some of the audios of this class in a closed closed YouTube channel, so that in case you want to listen to what we have conversed today, you can actually listen to it at your own convenient time. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it can be like a refresher for you whenever you want to go back there. So, ladies and gentlemen, review the slide. If you want to go more in depth into more insight, I share the text of the chapter 5, which is relating to public debt and public surpluses. You can also look at it and use that as a ready update. While you are doing that, please get past questions, and in those past questions, please try as much as possible to do like 5 diets as much as possible. Please be practicing with it. Please know yourself. Don't follow the crowd. Me, I don't know how to not sleep overnight. I don't know. I tried it once. I failed Jakarta. Follow your own path. Me, I'm an early riser. I wake up in the morning. I read between 4 and 7, and that's fine now. I'll play the entire day. Don't call me to be reading from morning to. I don't know how to read from morning to night. I know people that are good at it. I'm not good at it. So follow your path. Don't go and follow people and say they're going to sleep in the library. You to go and sleep in the library. The next day you can't do anything. Okay. Okay. Any other question? Any comments before we close the class for today? No other question? No comments? Okay.
Interesting class, sir. Very interesting class.
Thank you very much for attending this class. I don't know if I'm taking next week. I'll find out when my next class is. I'm trying to make sure I don't overwork my schedule. You know, as an accountantpreneur, I'm an accountant and entrepreneur. I make sure that what brings money to the table is what I'm focused on. I love to do this and I want to continue to, but also I want to make sure that I'm not really taking too much into my schedule, so that I don't go and harm my own self and harm the bread business. You understand? So I don't know if I'm taking next week, but if I am, we'll see you next week. If not, I'll see you guys next time. Next time I'm seeing you guys we are going to be taking ethics in public sector. Ethics in public sector. I think I'm taking maybe 3 classes with you guys, and that will be it. But I'm sure anything I teach you, you can't. If you find it in the exam more, you will dust it. I trust. All right. Thank you very much for your time. Alima, Grace, Mr. Sunday, you guys have been very active. Zara, you came late. I hope next time you come early. Favor, Chiamaka, Ajoke, the rain disturbed you, but you've been very active too. Latifa, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
And if any of you, I've spoken a lot about what I do. I'm also in the what do you consider the field, in the business of guiding people that really wants to take accounting serious. If you have any of those things, if it's your mind, if you are thinking about it, reach out to me. I will also give you. And then I think it was what I mentioned of working with me or something like that. You can DM me. We can actually talk about. I can tell you how we can work together. I can show you how we can actually train and all that. I'm open to all those things. It's part of what it is. Why I enjoy what I do. You understand? Accounting is fun. It's interesting. So, all right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you next time.